The most successful homeschool mothers that I know are not the ones with Pinterest perfect classrooms. They're not the ones with endless creativity, and they're not the fun moms either. What makes these moms the most successful homeschool moms is one simple rule, and it's really quite powerful. This is a rule that you are not going to see on Instagram. You are not going to hear it on a homeschool podcast. You are definitely not going to hear this at a homeschool convention or in homeschool mom groups anywhere. And you certainly will not hear about this in those fluffy homeschool books. And that rule is this: emotion is a liability. Emotion is what distracts you. It is what completely derails your homeschool day. And probably most importantly, emotion is what causes you to doubt yourself as a homeschool mom. So you're probably wondering now, okay, Ashley, well then what am I supposed to do? Well, let me tell you, the most successful homeschool moms are the ones that do not rely on emotion. Instead, they rely on consistency. Before I go any further, if your homeschool is feeling chaotic, if you just cannot figure out what is going wrong and how to get it back on track, let me give you the link for my homeschool masterclass. You can find that in the description below. This is what you're going to need to rebuild everything and to do it the right way. I know how to rebuild the right way because I have been there myself. I struggled for years and years and years in our homeschool, not getting the things done that we needed to get done, creating enormous learning gaps for my children. And now we are in such a fantastic place. Learning is happening day by day on a consistent basis. And it is because we rebuilt our homeschool from the ground up. I talk about how to do that in my masterclass, so make sure to grab the link and watch that. Okay, so let's talk about consistency and why it is so important, and why even if you think you are being consistent, you're probably not being consistent enough if you are not seeing results. So consistency is execution. Consistency is showing up day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year, every single time. Consistency is following through with your curriculum, even if you're not sure it's going in the right direction. Those feelings of not being sure, that's your emotion. Consistency does the job anyway. Because here's the thing that you really need to understand as a homeschool mother. Consistent inputs will create consistent outputs. Okay? So if you are doing your job and if you are following a time-tested curriculum, not every curriculum is time-tested. You know the ones that are, the ones that have been around for decades. If you are following a time-tested curriculum, if you are not trying to piecemeal everything together because you heard a myth about learning styles, if you're not chasing every new trend, if you're not chasing delight-directed homeschools or child-led homeschools, if you are just doing what you are supposed to do every single day, if you are making sure that your children are doing what they are supposed to do every single day, that is what I'm talking about with consistent inputs. And the best part of this is the outcome from those consistent inputs will happen regardless of your emotions. Your emotions are there for a reason, but really not when it comes to homeschool. They are really just something that will get in the way. So you need to put your emotions aside while you are homeschooling and really just focus on those consistent inputs and those learning outcomes. Now, I want to say something about curriculum because one of the current trends that actually drives me absolutely insane is this trend of piecemealing curriculum together. Now, I know that there are some homeschool mothers who have been successful at this, okay? Those homeschool mothers, though, are not the ones that are doing their piecemealed curriculum 2 or 3 times a week, okay? They are doing a ton of research, and they are putting this curriculum together. They are making sure that there will not be holes or gaps in their child's education, and then they are working the plan. If you're watching this video, I have a feeling that working the plan is the hard part for you. So my question to you is this: why on earth would you make it even harder than it already is to homeschool? Because let's be honest here, homeschooling is not easy. It is hard. For some people, it's the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life. I know it was for me. It's not as hard now, but it was. It was so hard. So if you're having trouble with your consistency, why on earth would you think that piecemealing together curriculum would be the answer to your problems? It is not. Okay. There are time-tested curriculums that have been around for decades that already have a scope of sequence, that already have those learning outcomes built in. It is tested on so many different students. It's seamless. It flows from year to year to year. Why on earth would you not just pick one of those? It boggles my mind. And I'm saying all of this, you need to understand I did the same thing, okay? I did this mostly when I would go to homeschool conventions. I would see the shiny, bright, shiny objects, and I would bounce around from here to there to there, instead of just picking a curriculum and checking things off every day. If you are stressed out about homeschooling, that is what you need. You need a simple system that you can check off every single day. So, you know, I've covered this many times, but in case you haven't seen one of my videos where I mention it, I use Memoria Press. It has been around for decades. It is fantastic. I could not recommend it more, but there are others. Sunlight pops into my mind. That was around and had been around already for a decade or two when I started homeschooling, which was like 19 years ago. It has fantastic results behind it. I don't know, and I'm not sure why. Why is it that box curriculums have such a bad reputation? It's it's seamless. It is what you should want for your children. So that's my little that is my little soapbox thing here. Like, if you're having trouble, pick up a box curriculum. Start doing that. You have to have a checklist. You have to have a seamless process. And there are plenty of ways to go about getting that. Veritas Press is another good one. I'll try and think of a few more because I know that they're out there. It's not just there are not just 3 good curriculums out there, but it will make your life so much easier, and it will also be easier to be consistent if you're not always wasting your time looking for the next bright, shiny object. We have got to stop doing that, mothers. Okay, let me get back on track now. Now, here's something I want to clear up very quickly. I did not become the mother of 11 thriving children because I was the most creative mom. I know that there are wonderfully creative homeschool moms out there. I have a few that are friends of mine. I am not that mom. And thankfully, you don't need to be that mom in order to be successful. I also did not become successful at homeschooling because I was constantly trying to reinvent the wheel. That's kind of what we were just talking about. Moms need to plot a course and then stick to that course. And if you're not very good at plotting a course, again, buy a box curriculum where the course has already been plotted for you by people who most likely know way more about education than you do. Successful education, not just educational theory, progressive educational theories that have been proven over and over and over again over the past century not to work. What I needed in order to build a successful homeschool was actually the trust of my children, discipline of both myself and my children, and those strong outcomes that I was talking about earlier, because I followed through with making sure that there were consistent inputs on a daily basis. When it comes to your children's education, one emotional decision or, caving one time emotionally, it can throw off, you've seen this happen before, it can throw off your whole day. But then what happens when you let those emotions continue to spiral? It doesn't just throw off a day, which is precious in and of itself. It also throws off the whole week. Sometimes it even throws off the whole month. And sometimes you get in a rut that you don't climb out of for a whole year. I have seen it happen. It's happened to me. Now, again, this does not mean that you may not have emotions. That is not what this means. What it means is that you do not make decisions based on your emotions. I am convinced that this is one of the largest problems that we have in our nation today, is that people do not understand how to remove their emotions from an equation and make a decision based on logic. Okay, that means not deciding to not do school today because you're just not feeling it, or because the vibe just isn't there, or rewarding yourself with a day off because you've been consistent for 2 days this week so far. All of these things are emotion-based decisions, and that is not going to give you the outcome that you truly want. What is the outcome that you truly want? Well, I would hope that we all want our children to be well educated. And doing school 2 or 3 times a week is not going to cut it if that is what our goal is. Now, if that is not your goal, this is probably not the right channel for you. Okay, we are striving for homeschool excellence on this channel. So, this isn't going to be it. There are plenty of homeschool channels out there that will give you what you're seeking if homeschool excellence is not it. But on this channel, that is what we are striving for. I want to repeat something again. I have to tell myself this every day. Homeschooling is not easy. Okay, there are things that we can certainly do to make homeschool easier, such as building really strong habits, because once something is a habit, it does not feel as hard, even though it is still just as hard. It doesn't feel as hard. But homeschooling is not easy. It is tough work. It can be repetitive. It can feel boring, and a lot of times it can feel downright overwhelming, especially if you're dealing with some learning issues. If some of your children have some learning issues, it can feel super overwhelming, or if you have a lot of children, or if you're in a tough season. I have made a video that you can check out on homeschooling during pregnancy and postpartum and illness and things like that. So if you need a few ideas, please feel free to check that out. But it is just hard. Even on its best days, homeschooling is still hard, and it is a lot of work. But it is precisely in those moments, those really hard moments, when consistency matters more than ever. Because usually when we're allowing our emotions to dictate our whole lives, when something feels tough, or it feels repetitive, or it feels overwhelming, that's when we're going to throw in the towel. We cannot throw in the towel on our children's education if we have chosen to be the source of their education. We don't have that liberty. That liberty does not belong to us. Remember, moms, at the end of the day, math facts do not care about your feelings or your child's feelings, but they need to be memorized. Phonics rules do not care about how you feel about them or about how tough your child thinks they are. But those phonics rules need to be memorized so that our children can master reading. Latin conjugations do not care how much sleep you got last night or how much sleep your child got last night. There are things that still have to be done regardless. And the beautiful thing about teaching your children this, that the work has to be done regardless, is that this is such an important life skill. And there are not a whole lot of children learning this life skill, that life still has to happen and you still have to do your duty. So the brilliant part of this is, if you teach your children this by having high expectations of yourself and of your children in your homeschool, they are going to go into adulthood vastly more prepared than their peers, and that is a good thing. Again, education only cares about inputs and outputs. And if you want strong educational outcomes for your children, then you must have a strong system in order to achieve that. And this is really why the homeschool moms who are thriving are not just winging it. They do not just go with the flow. What they actually do is they build checklists, and they make sure to check the things off the list every single day. They have lesson checklists, they have daily checklists, they have subject checklists, they have chore checklists, and they have curriculum checklists. Checklists are not actually a weakness or a sign of weakness or a sign of someone who just can't keep their act together, checklists are actually weapons if utilized properly. They are weapons that keep you moving forward even on your hardest days. They are weapons that prevent your children's future from being hijacked by emotions. They are weapons that build confidence not just in you as mom the teacher, but also in your children. Because when you're checking these checklists off day after day, week after week, month after month, your children see what is being accomplished every single day, and they see that it's non-negotiable. This is just what we do. We wake up and we do the work. And it's the same every day. And it is fantastic because we are learning and we are growing and we are becoming more educated in the process, but we are also building self-discipline in the process. So my children know if it is on the checklist, it is getting done because I said I was going to do it, and I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm not going to lie to my kids. I'm not going to lie to the checklist. If it's on there, it's getting checked off. Checklists give you absolute clarity. They tell you what needs to be taught, what needs to be learned, in what order it needs to be learned. But the best part is it tells you when it's finished. And that is a fantastic feeling. There's no more of this open-ended, oh, when are we going to be done with school? Well, I don't know. When the checklist is done, that's when you're done. You get to see the progress. And that is so comforting to a lot of children. Without a checklist, you end up with chaos on your hands. You end up going 2 weeks without doing spelling and not even realizing it. You skip over math lessons. You double up on history because you got behind, but then you completely forget about composition. And this, moms, is how learning gaps creep in, even for the mom who's trying really hard to stay on top of everything. If what you're supposed to be doing is scattered and it's just not in a linear checklist right in front of you, it's easy to miss things. It's easy to forget things. But with a checklist, you eliminate the guesswork. You eliminate decision fatigue. And most importantly, you silence that inner voice that really just wants you to quit, or at least take a week off because you deserve it. You do not deserve it. Get out your checklist and check it off. So another beautiful thing about the checklist is that, you know, if I've been up with a baby or if I've been up with a sick child in the middle of the night, or if I just haven't slept well, which, you know, that does happen. I'm 44 years old now. The beauty about the checklist is I don't have to keep track of it up here, which frees my brain on those really tired days to focus elsewhere. If it is already written down for me and all I have to do is look at what comes next, it makes it so much easier. So the real truth here, mom, is that chaos grows when we rely on our feelings. But confidence grows when we rely on consistency and on habit building. And consistency really only grows to the point where it starts moving on its own when it doesn't have to rely on us anymore. When it's on paper, when it's out in front of us, when the children can see it, when we can see it, when there's an empty box there that's just waiting to be checked off, that is when consistency truly has a chance to do its work. So here's the really good news. It is not about being the smartest mom. Being a successful homeschool mom is not about being the most innovative mom or the most organized mom. It's about being the most faithful mom. And I don't know about you, but that is extremely encouraging to me because I happen to know that faithfulness is something that we can pray and ask God to help us with, and He will help us with it. We have to do our part, but it is something that can be built. You know, we're only going to ever have so much raw intelligence to work with. Some moms are more naturally organized than other moms. Some moms are super creative, and you know, that's not necessarily something that we can get more of, but we can become more faithful day after day after day. That is a muscle that we can definitely build. So we need to become the mom who does not cut corners. We need to become the mom who does not skip steps. We need to become the mom who who follows her checklist day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, until we have graduated those children and we can truly look back at the work that we have done and say, I did a good job. So let's recap. If you want to raise strong, well-educated, self-disciplined adults, you can no longer allow feelings to be in the driver's seat. Consistency is who is driving now. And in order to be consistency, I fully, highly, strongly recommend the checklist. It's so simple. You don't have to make it high tech. You can use a pencil and paper. You can type it up, make little boxes. Like, this does not have to be hard, but you got to do it. You got to get started. So if you are ready to stop letting emotions drive your homeschool and you are ready for consistency, you really need a strong system in place. Make sure that you watch my free homeschool masterclass if you have not yet. It's all about building that framework so that you can start putting those SOPs into place and start really making progress on a daily basis. The link is in the description box below. So moms, don't keep trying to wing this. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel. It's time to get that system in place so that you can start leading with confidence and success.